back, everybody. Today we're going to talk about the real cost of healthcare in retirement. The reason I wanted to put this together is I'll sit down with people planning their retirement, and the conversation usually starts with numbers like, how much do I need? And they'll come in, they'll tell me, hey, I heard I need $1 million. I heard I need $2 million. They might have come in and ran some online calculators. But rarely does anyone begin or even consider the most financial disruptive vulnerability in retirement. And that's healthcare. It's not market volatility. It's not Social Security timing. It's not even taxes. It's healthcare. It's one of the largest expenses retirees will face. It's one of the fastest growing categories of spending, and it's one of the most misunderstood parts of retirement planning. And honestly, the most dangerous part is most people assume Medicare will solve this problem, so they kind of check it off and go along their way. But honestly, it doesn't. So if you're within 15 years of retirement or you've already retired, healthcare costs have to be something that we'll figure it out to needs to be part of our core plan. So let's talk a little bit about why. One of the biggest mistakes people make when planning for retirement is underestimating how much healthcare would actually cost. So research consistently suggests that a healthy couple retiring at age 65 may spend somewhere between $300,000 and $400,000 over their lifetime on healthcare. And that number often doesn't include things like long-term care. Now, when people hear that number, they think it sounds a little high, but let's break it down and you'll see it makes a little bit more sense. Some of the healthcare costs are things like Medicare premiums, prescription drug plans, supplemental insurance, deductibles, co-pays, dental, vision, hearing. All of these expenses continue for decades. So because retirement today isn't just a 10-year period, for many couples, it's 20, 25, 30, 35 years. And during those 30 years, healthcare costs usually rise faster than most any other expense. So healthcare inflation has historically run higher than greater inflation. So, while everyday expenses might rise 2 or 3% per year, healthcare costs actually increase 4, 5, even 6% every year. That means that the medical expenses you have at age 65 may be doubling by the time you reach your mid-80s. Retirement portfolios don't usually struggle with one-time expenses. They struggle with rising, reoccurring expenses. Healthcare is exactly that. Now, here's where the misunderstanding begins. People believe Medicare covers everything. Medicare is incredibly important, but it's not comprehensive. So Medicare Part A helps pay hospital stays. Part B helps with doctors and outpatient services. Part D provides prescription drugs. But Medicare does not cover everything. It doesn't cover things like long-term custodial care. It does not eliminate deductibles or copays. And it generally does not cover things like dental care, hearing aids, or vision services. On top of that, your Medicare premiums can actually increase depending on what your income is. This is something called IRMAA, I-R-M-A-A. If your retirement income rises above certain thresholds, often because of maybe RMDs, or your Medicare premium can increase significantly, which means healthcare planning, tax planning are closely connected. And most retirees don't realize that until it happens. Another thing people don't realize is that healthcare spending usually changes as we age. In our early years of retirement, costs tend to be more manageable. You're active, you're healthy, medical expenses are more, let's call them routine. But as you move into your later 70s, early 80s, things begin to shift. Prescriptions increase. Doctor visits become more frequent. Specialists become more part of your picture. Then later in life, healthcare can take a dramatic change. Some people may require assisted living. You may know some of them. Some may need home healthcare, right? Some people may need people coming home. Others may require memory care or skilled nursing. And these services can easily cost 6 figures per year. When that happens, it doesn't just change healthcare expenses, it changes the retirement plan entirely. One of the biggest risks a retirement plan is something called sequence of return risks. That's what happens when retirees are forced to withdraw money when investments or markets are at a downturn. Healthcare costs can make this significantly worse. Imagine markets decline a certain percentage because markets do go up and markets do go down. And then at the same time, you have medical expenses that increased. Now you're withdrawing more money from a declining portfolio. That combination can permanently damage long-term retirement income. And that's why healthcare planning isn't just a budget item. It's about protecting the sustainability of your retirement portfolio. Another major piece of this conversation is long-term care. Medicare does not cover extended long-term care. Medicaid will cover it, but only if assets are largely already spent down, which leaves retirees with a very few choices. Some choose self-funded by maintaining a large reservoir. Some choose long-term care insurance. Some explore hybrid policies that combine life with long-term care benefits. There's no one-size-fits-all answer, but ignoring the question entirely is usually the most expensive option. Another important connection many retirees miss is how taxes affect healthcare costs. Many people retire with their majority of their assets inside traditional retirement accounts. Think of like your IRAs, your 401ks. These accounts grow tax deferral, which is great during your working years, but eventually require minimum distributions. These distributions increase taxable income. Higher taxable income can increase taxes, and it can also increase Medicare premiums. This is why strategies like Roth conversions before required distributions become sometimes helpful, reducing future costs. Healthcare planning isn't just about insurance, it's about income planning and tax planning. The goal of retirement planning is not simply to accumulate wealth, it's to create a plan that is stable and durable. That means preparing for the rising costs, longer lifespans, and unexpected expenses. Healthcare is one of the most predicted risks retirements can face, yet it's one of the least planned for. If healthcare costs are not built directly into your retirement income strategy, then retirement plan is pretty much incomplete. And the incomplete plans are the ones that tend to fail when life gets complicated. The bottom line is simple. Healthcare will almost certainly be one of the largest expenses in your retirement. And not once, repeatedly, over decades. The question is not whatever these costs will appear. The question is whatever they show up as a surprise or something that your retirement plan has already accounted for. The difference between those two outcomes can determine whatever feeling secure or financially stressful. And that's why healthcare planning should be one of those first conversations in retirement planning, not one of the last. I want to thank you guys for being part of this one. I know it was a longer one than we usually do, but healthcare in retirement is severely overlooked and super important to be addressed. I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one.